All right, we'll revisit the practice squad situation in a little bit. Let's move on to the defensive side of the ball here. And if you're with us live, we appreciate you being here on what is just a supremely nerdy, very tedious, the least broad audience we've ever catered to, I think, on the show is this right here. But you know what? Once a year, we're going to do it. So get over it. Defensive line, I've got them keeping 5. I think there are 4 locks here: Simmons, Sweat, Sebastian Joseph Day, and Keandre Coburn. I perceive from what I'm hearing and what I think and what I see, I think that those guys are for sure making the roster. And then I've got them keeping TK McClendon. I wouldn't be shocked that 5th spot being occupied by any of the 3 guys that aren't in red here. So we know Davidson is hurt and out for the year. Tough break for him. I think that he actually had a shot to make the roster before that, but McClendon, Easton, and Bohanna are all competing for that last spot in my mind. I lean McClendon in terms of where he's been rotated in practice and in the games. The one I'd be most surprised by is Easton, who I think has the most upside of the 3, and I've been impressed with him throughout camp. But he's young, he's raw, he screams to me a UDFA rookie practice squad guy. Let's give him a year. That's how I feel. Do you have them keeping 5, and do you have them keeping the same 5?
Yes, so I have them keeping 5. That's actually the last addition I made, kind of my last tweak. I had them keeping the 4 there in Jeffrey Simmons, Tavondre Sweat, Sebastian Joseph Day, and Keandre Coburn. But then I kept continuing to look at that list, and I'm like, they just need depth there because as much as I think those 4 guys could hold down the fort, the way they've kind of deployed some of those guys in practice and on the field, it feels like they are kind of rotating these guys in. So keeping a 5th, I think, is the option. I would not be surprised if they keep a 6th in Isaiah Easton or Quinton Bohanna. I've kind of said this half jokingly, but I think there is a reality where they like Quinton Bohanna enough to keep him on the 53 man.
Like I agree. I think there is a role where that happens.
In practice that has given me signs that says they might like this cat more than we think he's an actual person. Like they might like him enough to actually take him off witness protection.
More than we are critical of his actual existence.
Correct. Right. And so I do have them keeping 5 right now. Like you said, I have them keeping TK McClendon. I think he's the guy that they've rotated in a lot more than the other guys. Isaiah Easton's an interesting guy to keep tabs on, like we just said with Quinton Bohanna. But coming down to it, I have those 4 guys and TK McClendon making that 5th spot.
Okay, let's move on here to the edge position. Another contentious situation. I've got them keeping 4, man. I think that you've only got 3 that are locks, and that's Harold Landry, Arden Key, and Jalen Harrell, the rookie. I've got to keep Rashad Weaver because I think well, first of all, they need 4. You have to have at least 4 edges. You can't just rock and roll with 3 into the season. That's not going to happen. I don't know. Before I give my thoughts, did you also have 4? Did you slide a 5th in there?
Nope, I have them keeping 4, and this was something that I think was pretty apparent to me in today's press conference with Denard Wilson, how he talked about that edge group. Not a lot of glowing things across the board for his edge group, kind of beating around the bush with coach speak. And that really,
I would say pretty clearly not a crazy fan, actually.
Yes.
I'd say it was, without saying it explicitly, he was like, yeah, there's some dudes in there. Of all the dudes that have ever played edge, those are some of them.
They keep Rashad Weaver just based on he's been here and, he hasn't had the greatest camp, but he has flashed in the past. Can they continue to work on him throughout the season? I think so. I think that gives him the edge over a Caleb Murphy, which there's been talk online about Caleb Murphy being better than Rashad Weaver and more deserving of that spot, and people think it's not entirely close. I'm almost the exact opposite of that opinion after what I've seen over 2 weeks. As much as like John says in the comments, they're so sick of Rashad. He's the known quantity that can help you in a pinch, and I think that's important with this group. The biggest thing, though, for me is how Denard Wilson today kind of said, with this edge group, we may look at rotating in some interesting, pass rush packages, and called out Jamal Adams by name. And that's kind of, I was flirting with the idea of keeping 5, but the fact that he continued to harp on this idea that Jamal Adams might as well just end up playing as an edge player and just blitzing the quarterback on a lot of plays and a lot of design looks tells me that they have enough everywhere, considering the linebacker room as well, that they probably don't need to keep more than 4.
Yeah, Yeah, I agree. I think in their minds, they would like to get a fifth at some point, whether that's in season or right before. Like, I don't know what the plan exactly will be. But I continue to think that they'll be grinding the waiver wire, the cut wire when cut down day happens for another body. I don't see a fifth guy on this roster for sure to make that group. So only having 5 D linemen and only having 4 edge players allows for me to probably the most foolish part of my list. If I'm being 100% honest,
Before we move on real quick, because we do have some comments here, like
sure.
In the comments saying hot take Caleb Murphy over Weaver. The reason why I think that Rashad Weaver,
did Mike Herndon log in as Kenneth Kroll? Is that what just happened?
The reason why I'm keeping Rashad Weaver over Caleb Murphy is that through 2 games, it's been apparent that Rashad Weaver looks like he knows where to be on a play, whereas Caleb Murphy continues to look lost out there. And I think if you're going to keep a 4th edge guy, you'd want the guy who has, has a few years under his belt, at least 2, and looks like he can play the part more than Caleb Murphy has. There was a lot of times in that second game where Caleb Murphy, just absolutely looked lost, was missing where the ball was going. Honestly, he was missing the run was going this way. Caleb Murphy went the exact opposite way. Mm-hmm. Like, he's just not ready. And like, I get that he has some traits that gives him that upside. But like we said, if we're going into this discussion only keeping 4, I'm taking the guy who knows where to be on the field.
To elaborate on that, and as Stoney says here in the comments, 100% agree. We've got to hold Mike Herndon accountable. That's I believe, at Mike Herndon NFL, if you want to go let him know about it on Twitter. For the Caleb Murphy hype train, 2 years in a row now, he has led this scurrilous, fruitless campaign. You just gave your reason for why you have Weaver in over Caleb Murphy. Not to get too deep in the weeds, but my reason is because Weaver he's been good before and Caleb Murphy never has been. That's my primary reason, is that I've seen at one point in their career Weaver do some things in real games that matter and make some form of impact. With Caleb Murphy, I've just never seen it. And nothing against Caleb Murphy as a human being. It's nothing personal. I just don't think he's that good a ball player right now. And he continues to need to develop. So anyways, limited numbers at D-line and at edge allow for me to do the dumbest thing I've done in my 53. And that's keep 6 middle linebackers. I am self-aware of the fact that this is me just kind of wish casting it. I'm self-aware of the fact that this is likely not the number. I think it's far more likely they keep 5 or maybe even 4 middle linebackers than they keep 6. But I have them keeping 6. We know the 3 that are locks, and that's Jack Gibbons, Kenneth Murray, Chance Campbell. Those 3, they keep talking about Gibbons and Murray as the starters. They're getting the starter treatment. No mistaking that situation. And then Chance Campbell has been the best defender on the entire Titans team the last 2 weeks in camp and at practice, at practice and in the preseason games. So that's in stone. Those guys are locked in my opinion. Then you have the trio where things get interesting. Otis Reese, James Williams, Cedric Gray. You want to keep them all for very different reasons. With Otis Reese, he's the best of the 3 right now. Veteran, highest floor at the moment. With James Williams, you keep him because of the ceiling. He's a rookie. He is I think the high. Well, right now he has shown the highest ceiling flashes so far, and you're excited about what he can become as a 7th round draft pick. And then Cedric Gray, you don't keep him for anything he's done, because he's not done anything. You keep him because he's a 4th round draft pick, and when you scouted him in college, you were given enough reasons to draft him in the 4th round to like him. Like, there's a lot to like there on tape. It's just been a while. So let's talk about this, JT. The odds are one of these guys doesn't stay. Who's your money on to end up getting cut, and why? I honestly don't have an answer yet in my head. I'm gonna think about it while you answer.
I'm so just torn on
what'd you do by the way. Did you keep 6? Did you keep 5? What'd you do?
I kept 6, but then again, it's like those comments were pretty damning by Brian Callahan last week on Cedric Gray, to the point where I feel like they
can't cut him.
I'm interested to see what they do with him. So he's on my list as that. I
think 6. He turns purple. I think he turns purple on my color coding list. I think that he ends up as
he turns purple.
He holds his breath until they keep him on the team. They say no, and he turns purple. No, I think he becomes a pup IR guy. In my gut, that's what I think, is they find a list to put him on, and it may be a scuttled season. Like, he may be a developmental, and that'll be very disappointing if that's the case. But I think that might be their solution, because you cannot cut him.
The biggest thing is that as we've gone through here, right? the middle linebacker position is the one where I think they may make the most frustration, in that they may find a way also to justify keeping Luke Gifford because of his special team prowess. Like you said with the Hassan Haskins, if you're not keeping Hassan Haskins, okay, you kind of need another guy who's your ace in the hole on special teams. And so is James that? I don't know. Could James Williams really be that guy who would be a surprise cut, because we've talked him up for so long over these past couple of weeks here. But like Brian Callahan says, maybe Brian Callahan's timeline for James Williams to grow into that position is a lot faster than what we perceive James Williams' timeline as. Could he be the one with the odd man out because of Luke Gifford's ability on special teams? Now, I don't know, but I ultimately, I'm still here with you. I'm Jack Gibbons, Kenneth Murray, Chance Campbell, Otis Reese, James Williams, Cedric Gray, but I still feel kind of in my gut that they find a way to keep Luke Gifford because of that special teams.
Oh, God, please don't. If they keep 5 or 6 linebackers and one of them is Luke Gifford, I'm going to punch a hole.
I'm not saying I want it. I
know, but I hate to even put it out in the ether. That's
but if I had my way with how they choose their linebackers, I'm with you that it is those 6. Most likely 5, because I think that they do something with Cedric Gray. Then again, it's been a shoulder injury. Obviously, it's at a level of severity where it's kept him out for this long. I agree with you that he, if it's been out for this long, there is motivation to put him on a PUP list and kind of start the season.
He needs to be back this week. He needs to be back.
Yes, if he's not back, if he's not back tomorrow, that's
if he's not back tomorrow, I'm confident he's purple on this list. I like Kenneth says in the comments, feels like some injury PUP hijinks are coming on. I agree. I think if he's not back out there tomorrow, then you can go ahead and pencil him in as purple on the list, which will be disappointing. And Scory Day in the comments saying, whispers, Reese outplayed Campbell last week. Yeah, I can get behind that. Brian Callahan said it himself. He had a very nice game. If Otis Reese hadn't gotten injured in that game, we maybe have a different conversation about who's linebacker 3 and 4. I probably would still lean Campbell, but that injury might put him back a little bit. It set him back in terms of missed time. And I think right now he's easily your linebacker 4 in terms of talent. So no debate there. Moving on to the cornerback position. I have them keeping the obvious 4. We've talked about how these 4 are significantly better than the rest of the 4. L'Jarius Sneed, Chidobe Awuzie, Roger McCreary, and Jarvis Brownlee Jr. And then I have them keeping Gabe Jeudy-Lally, which I am excited and fine with, and Trey Avery, which bothers me in my soul, deep down within. But I do believe he will be on this team. I have them cutting Caleb Farley, Eric Garrer, Anthony Kendall, Robert Javier, and Tay Gowan. Did you keep 6, and who did you keep?
I kept 6. Begrudgingly, I kept Trey Avery. I don't know.
Do we have the exact same list so far, by the way, except for offensive line?
No. So offensive line is the big one. This is where I'm also going to deviate as well.
Good.
I'm keeping Eric Garrer mostly because over Gabe Jeudy-Lally right now. And honestly, looking back at it, would I probably just keep Gabe Jeudy-Lally for S and G's? Over him, probably kicks and gigs. The reason I'm keeping Eric Garrer is when you look at this list out, they're truly the way they've been using Jarvis Brownlee as a mainly outside guy, as someone who they want to excel on the outside, shows me that that's where they feel his natural position is at right now. And so if Roger McCreary were to go down, they really don't have a option on the list to play that kind of nickel corner spot if you keep a Trey Avery and a Gabe Jeudy-Lally. So that was kind of my reasoning to keep Eric Garrer, also because I think out of those guys between Trey Avery, Gabe Jeudy-Lally, Eric Garrer, all those guys, I think Eric Garrer is the best corner, even though he is smaller and plays the nickel. I think he's the best at that, at his position. So that's why I'm keeping Eric Garrer. And then, like you said, Trey Avery, Gabe Jeudy-Lally, it's a toss up. I put Trey Avery because just like my throwing out there in the ether with Luke Gifford, they somehow find a way with Trey Avery. They know something clearly that we just don't, and they're seeing something that we're not, I guess. Like that's my only rationale behind that.
I don't think they're seeing something that we don't. I don't think that's it. I think it's just that they trust him, and you're just begrudgingly fine with it. You know, it is what it is. You don't feel like you have somebody that is a confident vet option as your like, I don't know. I think they feel like he's a necessary evil, and evil is so strong. It's nothing against him personally. It's just I don't know. You get what I'm saying? Where they feel like they kind of need that role, and he fits that role, and they just wish he was better at that role.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And as John says in the comments, as your cornerback 6, it's not the worst thing, but you certainly would like better.
Well, and if Gabe Judy-Lawley is the guy they keep, I think that he's your cornerback 5, actually. If Eric Guerra is the guy they keep, like JT thinks, then maybe that's the case. I don't know. Moving on to safety. I think this one's pretty easy. Honestly, I think they keep 4. The reason why I think they keep 4 is because every time we've talked about roster so far with Brian Callahan, he's used, I don't know if this is probably non-intentional, but he's used as his example, like when he talks about talent versus fitting needs on Monday, he literally said, well, do we need to, keep a 5th safety or go with a more talented guy? I think that they'll literally ask that question in the room and say, let's get the more talented guy. So I think they keep 4. I think they keep Amani Hooker and Quandre Diggs, your obvious starters. Jamal Adams, the other guy that's obvious because they went out and sought him out and brought him in. He's listed high on the unofficial depth chart. And then Elijah Molden, who I think is the obvious veteran choice, cutting Matthew Jackson, Keaton Ellis, Mike Brown, and Shaheem Carter. Is this the list that you had?
It is, but I do want to bring up an interesting point that we talk about this list of surprising guys who might get cut, knowing what we know about Elijah Molden's kind of fall down the depth chart. Is that a possibility? I mean, what?
How about I one up you? How about Jamal Adams, surprise cut candidate?
Ooh, that's an interesting take.
What have we? It's all baked in, right? We're not saying he makes the roster based on anything he's done out here at practice, or he's not even suited up for the games. What has he done to guarantee himself a spot? Now, I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm just saying the fact that he's not been back out there yet at practice, maybe he's not back to the shape they need him in at the rate at which they were hoping he would be. I think that's a possibility.
Yeah, I think it's a possibility as well. Like, obviously, like the great unknown for us is the injury and status of these guys. And like 4 of these guys could go on, a PUP or an IR eventually, like, and this all changes, I think.
I'll nominate, by the way, the person I think if Adams or Molden somehow doesn't make the roster, I think Matthew Jackson's the obvious one. He continues to be the gunner in I keep saying practice games, the preseason games, which are practice games.
They are practice games.
They sure are. I think he's the one. He would not. I mean, TD is always high on him. When I think Matthew Jackson, frankly, I think Tron
made a few plays. I mean, sure. he has 2 or 3 interceptions in practice. So
he's very clearly the 5th safety on this team. I just don't think that makes the cut. And then to the chagrin and surprise of everyone here for the specialists, I had them keeping Ryan Stonehouse, Morgan Cox, and Nick Folk. No, Braden Narveson. He did not unseat. Nick
Joke's
Folk,
on you. I have the Narwhal. Just kidding.
The Narwhal is on the team.
Yes.
So yeah, those are my 53. I'm assuming you have the same specialists. So really, we only disagreed on. I had Judy Lawley and Duncan. Excuse me. I had Judy Lawley and Lachavious Simmons and Cole Spencer on the team. Instead, you had Eric Guerra, Leroy Watson, and Garon Christian. So we really only disagreed on 3 guys. That's kind of surprising that it was that in lockstep. But I think that's reflective of the fact that 1, we're geniuses, and 2, maybe more importantly, most of this roster is already pretty cut and dry. I don't think there's a whole lot of debates. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Thanks for that.
Want more of the latest from the Hot Read podcast? Subscribe to the channel right below.
And follow us on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram @HotReadPod for even more segments, clips, and announcements.